Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and I would like to welcome on Kevin from Coinbase. How are you, Kevin?
Kevin, good to see you. Always
Kevin.
appreciate with another Kevin. So thanks for having me on today. Super excited to chat about x402, the community here, and cover what we've been doing at Coinbase Developer Platform. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I remember it was a long time ago when I first heard X402 come out, and I was so excited because like it's something so simple but super powerful, and I'm excited for you to kind of explain it to everyone today, and also give a demo, I believe. So, without further ado, I'll kind of step backstage, and do you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm tuning in here from the House of Web3 in San Francisco. So I have a studio set up. I have a camera over here. So if I'm not looking at the cameras, sorry in advance. I'll do my best. So let's go ahead and I'll share my screen. I'll give a quick overview around x402, what we're doing at Coinbase Developer Platform, and then I'm going to give a demo around Payments MCP, which is a great way to interface with x402, leveraging the discovery layer of the Bazaar to find and use tools, chain them together to build agentic workflows. So again, my name is Kevin Leffew. Great to meet everyone. I'm on the go-to-market team at Coinbase Developer Platform. And Coinbase Developer Platform exposes a suite of APIs and SDKs that make it really easy to build on Web3. So the analogy we often use is Amazon.com was built using EC2 and S3, and then AWS came along and exposed those primitives so that anybody could build using the same APIs that built Amazon.com. We have a similar approach at Coinbase Developer Platform. We've built great wallet tooling that leverages trusted execution environments to make it easy to spin up wallets, on-ramp from fiat, and do other on-chain activities. So check us out. But today I'm here to talk about x402. And x402 is a web protocol. It's built into the HTTP stack, and it leverages the 402 status code. So for those who are not familiar with HTTP, you may have seen the 404 status code when you go to a website and you get file not found. 402 is payment required. It was actually built into the web during the HTTP 1.1 spec release, and was designed to provide a monetization layer for the web. Mark Andreessen's famously called the lack of 402 adoption as kind of the original sin of the internet, because it was replaced by ads and kind of other mechanisms to monetize. People have tried to light up the 402 status code in the past. We think that now is the right time given the rise of the agentic economy. And so agents don't have a lot of the same kind of cognitive baggage around using traditional payment rails or having to navigate micropayments. Agents have much larger memory in terms of context capacity and the ability to reason about tools. And so what x402 lets agents do is it lets agents discover tools on the internet, which are paid API endpoints. These can be any web resource that might have information or data on it. And so you can very easily wrap any URL, any API, any MCP server, monetize it with a 402 status code paywall, and enable agents to discover it and access it. And so really the main design goal of x402 is to remove the human-in-the-loop tool friction that's often associated with agents. And so we know that language models perform better when they have access to external tools. Today, it's kind of a pain to configure those tools for agents. You need to go to an API portal, derive the API key, and then explicitly configure the tool call. x402 really flips this approach on its head. Now all the agent needs is a wallet or the ability to pay, and it can discover, pay for, and leverage these tools, reason about them, and use them in alignment with the user prompt. So that's kind of the quick overview and some of the design goals of x402. I'll go through a quick presentation, and then I'll give a quick demo. And so we know with today's tooling, agents can't easily pay for external data for services, but they need to, just as I mentioned before. We need to enable these language models to access API requests, to access external data, whether that might be a medical research data set or some kind of scientific research data set, or maybe even a big bucket of coding examples. Agents need to be able to access these APIs, these cloud actions, these data sources in order to optimize for the tasks or the prompts that the user endowed them with. And so we also see the use case around inference models. And so I oftentimes like to talk about kind of the first open source AI revolution being the launch launch of Stable Diffusion, where people were fine-tuning Stable Diffusion image generation models, launching them on Hugging Face. You can do all kinds of cool things. The industry's kind of evolved from fine-tuning to context ingestion, and I think x402 fits that architecture quite well, because now we can bring any web tool into context and leverage that. So kind of the big goal for x402, kind of the big idea is what if we enabled stablecoins to become the payment layer for web resources? So we know that there are a lot of advantages with stablecoins today. They're atomic, they're discrete, they are programmable, and most importantly, they're extremely low fee. And so with the rise of layer 2 blockchains like Base and other blockchains like Solana, it's now really cheap to send money across the internet, and that enables micropayments. And so now we can do payments at a tenth or a fraction of a cent very easily, which was not really possible in kind of the pre-stablecoin era. Credit cards often have high processing fees. They have interchange fees that can go from 2.5 to 4%. There's all kinds of minimum transaction rules, and stablecoins really break this paradigm and enable the new kind of paradigm for web monetization. And we know that what's happening really quickly is that intent is becoming the new interface. And so I have an 8-month-old child. I expect the way that he interfaces with computers to be vastly different than the way that I interface with computers. And I think that this will line up with the rise of kind of the language model interface. And so I think if you're on this call today, you're likely using Chat or ChatGPT, Claude from Anthropic, or other tools as really your first point into the internet rather than using a search engine. And this trend is kind of proliferating across the internet. And not only is our language models disrupting search, they're really disrupting the operating system. Fundamentally, they're disrupting the way that humans interact with computers. And so this old model of users kind of scrolling and having all this information represented to them and then having to discover and pay manually is quickly getting replaced by an agentic model. And so this is kind of an e-commerce example where the user states their intent and the agent handles search and payment and fulfillment. This will be true both for e-commerce, but also for kind of the wider superset, which is every single web resource will be handled by the agent. And obviously discovery is going to be really critical there, and we'll get into that. And so we know that language models have disrupted consumer discovery, and now they're coming for payments. So if you've been following the Andreessen Horowitz State of Crypto report, they estimated that the total addressable market for agentic payments by 2030 is $30 trillion. That's a huge TAM. I'm not quite sure how Gartner got to that number. They probably just lumped together all payments and said the total addressable market for all payments in the world is agentic commerce. And that actually makes sense. I think that's probably true. So we know that the ability to bring payments into the language model experience, into this new interface, is going to be critical. There's going to be a huge market associated with it. And x402 is designed to be an open protocol, an open standard, built at the lowest level of the web stack, the HTTP layer, and enable this agentic commerce to happen. And so we see kind of this implication where commerce in general, whether that be, again, web resources or e-commerce or kind of anything that we might be purchasing, any good or service, must adopt to kind of an API-first agent native interface. We see kind of the early example of these, what I like to call liquid UIs that are represented inside of a language model, emerging with standards like ACP inside of ChatGPT. And so this space is moving quickly. If anyone's on the call, I invite you to dig in. You can vibe code prototypes very easily, and we'd love to welcome you to the x402 community. So fundamentally what x402 does is it unlocks frictionless agentic commerce for APIs. Frictionless meaning we don't need human-in-the-loop configuration of API keys or tool calling. The agents can discover tools and use them on their own accord, as I'd mentioned earlier. This enables agents to perform better on tasks or human-driven prompts. In a way that doesn't require the human configuration. And so I have some eval studies linked down here below on this slide, but we can see that eval studies have shown that API agents outperform those that rely solely on web browsing. So web browsing is a tool, but the more tools that agents have access to, the better they do in terms of alignment with user intent. And that's really critical piece of research. I think it's tautological, or it's obvious to developers and people that have been using language models. The more tools we give agents, the better they'll perform, and that's kind of the key takeaway here. really our big audacious goal for x402 is to kill the API key, and I like to represent it by these two emojis: API key, tombstone. The API key's had a great run. It's existed since really the dawn of web commerce and cloud services on the internet, but we don't need the API key in an agent-first model. And in fact, we can leverage Web3 primitives like the wallet to replace kind of the authorization, where the micropayment from the wallet acts as the authentication that replaces the API key. So instead of sending an API request with an API key header inside the request, we can instead send a signature that authorizes withdrawal of a micropayment on the fly. And this improves the user experience, the developer experience, and what I also like to call the AX, or the agent experience as well. So we're entering an agent-first internet, and it's time to rethink how web services are architected and monetized. I think Pierre Richelson from cal.com had a great tweet here. This is kind of a funny one, but I think it plays into some of the x402 overarching wider thesis. And so he says, AI companies are secretly hoping to become gyms. They want you to sign up and not go. They want you to pay for your subscription, but please don't use us. Well, that's a great business model, but we think that what x402 is going to do is enable the commoditization of web resources. And so now, instead of having to sign up for a subscription that I may or may not use, we can offer API endpoints, whether that's inference or object storage or even databases that can be scoped with OAuth. We can make those available through x402. We can enable agents to pay per use for those services. And so that becomes more aligned with kind of the demand side of the economy. This is a little bit older of a slide, but we're seeing a lot of adoption in x402. If you're on the call today, you've probably seen that we've hit over 3 million in total transactional volume over x402 in the last 2 weeks, I believe. And we have a lot of great partners that are helping drive this growth. A lot of companies that you might not traditionally associate with Web3 or with kind of on-chain finance are now seeing the advantages of leveraging protocols like x402 to accept stablecoins to really solve key agentic experience AX issues. And so we've partnered with companies like Circle, Hyperbolic, Pinata, OneShot, Firecrawl, Crossmint, Nanar, Cambrian, and FreePick. Some of these are large AI companies that are exploring the on-chain economy due to x402. And so we see x402 as a great way for traditional companies to start to take advantage of the financial benefits of stablecoins and the user experience benefits of stablecoins. And so it's really a cheaper method to receive funds. You can earn yield on those funds, and you can program it and improve the agent experience. In terms of use cases that we're seeing, you can imagine language model inference being a key one. And so Hyperbolic is offering GPT OSS, which is the open source version of GPT, as well as MetaLlama and other models like Kimi and Quen in DeepSeek that are available via x402. We see a lot of image and video generation tools. FreePick's really leading the charge here with Protea, showing some cool use cases as well. And there are a ton of tools available in the bazaar that let you create videos with Veo, SDXL, some even using Sora 2, which is the cutting edge video generation model from OpenAI. We see adoption of perpetual storage through Pinata and IPFS, and the ability to grab social feed data through Nanar. Nanar is the API for Farcaster. Where things really get interesting is when we start to chain these tool calls together in a way that creates a more complex workflow. And so we can imagine, as an example, maybe an AI agent pulls social data from Farcaster and figures out, okay, what are the latest trends in crypto today? Then might use a language model to synthesize all of that context into a prompt that it feeds into a video generation model and creates a meme around. And so we can start to imagine kind of these real-time memes, these videos, emerging through kind of chaining tool calls. There are a lot of great financial use cases around trading. We're seeing a lot of use cases around social, but really the opportunities are endless when we start to give the language models the ability to reason about these tools and chain them together to do more complex tasks. So I'll pause there. What I wanted to do is also showcase a demo of Payments MCP, which Coinbase launched, I believe, only 2 weeks ago. And what this does, it lets you bring x402 into Claude natively or any other language model, and then access the discovery layer and pay for services. So I'm going to go into my browser, and I'll just showcase the documentation for the payments MCP. It's worth noting that all of the documentation on Coinbase developer platform is AI native, and so I can really easily kind of just copy the documentation and paste it into a language model, or I can use this button here to export it directly into ChatGPT to ask questions about it. I can export it directly to Cursor, and so it makes it really easy to kind of vibe code applications that leverage our tooling, our wallets, our MCP servers, and x402 broadly. So it's really easy to set up. I've already set it up, but you just open up your terminal, you run npx Coinbase Payments MCP, you authenticate with your email, and then you add funds. And so what I'll do now is I'll open up Claude. I already have this Payments MCP integrated into Claude. And we can see is now I have a wallet opened up with Claude here as well. And so I can show this wallet. And I'm already logged in. This is a Coinbase embedded wallet. And so I can really easily top this up. I can add funds to it very easily. If I want to, using Coinbase on-ramp, I can just use Apple Pay to top up the funds. If I want to do some research and development around x402, super easy to get started. I can also just send USDC to it as well if I'd like. And then we can also see here we have the ability to discover all these different resources that are available through x402, in this case on Base. I can also search Base Apolia. We'll likely bring Solana support here as well. But I can see all these different tools that are available that are now accessible to my agent that let me do different types of tasks. And we have a lot of these launching, over 21 today. How we rank these and discover them is an area of research. And so if you're interested in x402, I definitely welcome you to look into kind of the discovery layer and think about the architecture there. So we can also set spend limits. So I think everybody here knows like language models are not infallible. And it's really important that we're able to set guardrails when we're doing research and development around x402. And so if I wanted to set spend limits, I could say, okay, I'm only going to allow my language model to spend max $2.50 per API call, and I want to limit the total session spending limit to $5. So there's just the kind of some configuration tools. We can also use Coinbase tooling to whitelist certain addresses. So if we wanted to create an agent that only is allowed to access certain tools, we could do that through the policy engine that's built into CDP. So a lot of great ways to set and configure guardrails when we're building these types of agentic applications. Okay, so now I'm in my wallet. I have a couple of prompts here that I just copied and pasted. So first let's ask, like, does it have knowledge of the tool? What is Payments MCP? What does it do? Let's ask Claude. So it's thinking about and defining Payments MCP. It has access to the tool. It's actually looking into the bazaar and accessing some of the ability tools, the available tools. And so we can see here it can make paid API calls. It manages the wallet and has access to the bazaar, which is what we're calling the discovery layer for x402. And so how does it work? It discovers what the payment is required for a specific endpoint. It automatically handles the payment from your wallet, and then it retries the request with the payment so that it can access the cloud service, the API, or it can ingest the data from the API's context to solve a task. So that's super cool. So this is already now a big upgrade to kind of classic language model Claude functionality, and we're bringing this into kind of the open web ecosystem. So these aren't just predefined tools built into Claude. Now we can access any open tool. So next I'm going to ask it what my wallet address is. So let's just make sure that it has access to it. So we'll give it a second here to run. And it's going to ask, it's going to request, so I can always, it always prompts when it's going to use a tool, whether I want to give access to the tool. So this is another good guardrail that's built into Claude with MCP. I can choose to always allow it. For the demo, I'll just allow it once so that it can call the tool and can get the wallet address. And here we go. We can see my wallet address is this beautiful string of numbers and letters here. And look, we have a wallet built into a language model. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. So now we can see that works, and I can deposit funds to this wallet. I can deposit or to take any on-chain action with it. So that's super cool. So next I'm going to do kind of a fun prompt here. I'm going to chain together a couple different tool calls. This is another prompt that I quickly put together before the demo here. So I'm going to ask Claude to get my horoscope for today and give me some degen moves based on the latest crypto and AI news. And I'm just specifying that it's free to use data from paid endpoints here. So let's go ahead and run this prompt. And so the first thing it's going to do is it's going to go through the bazaar. It's going to look, is there a tool to retrieve my horoscope? And so it's going to ask me, first I need to know your zodiac sign, when's your birthday? My birthday is September 4th. So let's go ahead and allow that so I can use this tool. Now we can see Claude wants to use this make HTTP request with x402. In this case, it's going to use Heuris, which is a deep reasoning API endpoint. And it's going to charge, I think, 10 cents here. So let's go ahead and allow that. Great. Now it needs to know my latest crypto news. Well, I tell it it's my sign, so I'm a Virgo. So now I pulled some of the latest crypto news using this paid tool call. I am Virgo. I'm a Virgo. That's probably what I should have said. Luckily, the language models are smarter than we think. Great. So now it's going to give us some degen plays. It's going to basically ping this this horoscope endpoint, which is an endpoint that's hosted on Vercel here, and it's going to use that in combination with the context that ingested from today's crypto news. All right, here's my horoscope. The minor pivot trade. AI compute tokens. I do like AI compute tokens. That's cool. Cool. So this is just kind of a really simple, fun example of chaining different tool calls together in order to solve a prompt. We can imagine all different other kinds of use cases. I think video is always a cool one where I could ask it to pull the latest news around, I'm an NFL fan, the Philadelphia Eagles, and create a viral video around that, for example. And then I could chain in a tool call to post that to social media if I wanted to as well. And so this is where the kind of the power of these chained agentic workflows comes into play. And again, we've solved so much friction by removing the need for manual tool use configuration. With x402, it's one tool, and we have access to it's one tool configuration, aka giving an agent a wallet, and now we have access to every tool that's publicly available. So there we go. There's a quick demo. I brought a wallet into Claude. I used it to pay for some resources to solve a task. And that's just kind of a quick overview of what x402 can do. If anyone has any questions, wants to get involved in the community, you can follow me on X. My X handle is KLEFFEW94. I think it's linked to in the channel. But thanks again for having me on, Kevin. I appreciate it. Really enjoyed giving this demo, and thank you for hosting me here at the Web3 House in San Francisco. Hope everyone online is having a great time, and thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kevin. I wonder if you have time to take a couple questions while we wait for the next speaker?
Sure thing.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So there is one chat question from Harold. He's asking, he's curious about what fraud prevention ideas are being introduced to prevent, malicious stuff on x402. I don't know if you have any thoughts there or what you think.
Yeah, definitely. This is a really kind of key area that we're focused on as a community in x402. And so, I think the analogy we often use is Google PageRank. And so, in the 2000s, right, you can imagine there's all kinds of information accessible on the internet. And what Google did is they developed algorithms like PageRank to make sure that the results that were displayed to users were aligned with the user intent. I think it's really going to be the same approach with the x402 discovery layer with the bazaar. There's also a lot of really interesting work to be done around eval. And so for those who are maybe not as deep in the AI space, eval is basically how we trace a prompt and we determine whether the output was correct and aligned with the user. And so I think there's really cool things that can be done around eval to make sure that API endpoints are reliable and that they're giving information that is useful for the prompt. And so all of kind of this work around making making sure the APIs are reliable and useful are happening at the discovery layer of x402. Again, it's an open ecosystem, so we'd love you to join and participate. On kind of the guardrail side, again, we can whitelist addresses. There's a lot we can do on the agent side. We can set spend permissions and kind of lock a lot of this down so that we don't hallucinate and drain a wallet or something like that. So there are a lot of configuration tools, but again, it's a really important area of research, and it's important for the community to get involved there.
Yeah, that's good. And what I was also curious, this is actually just a question for me. I'm in this kind of bucket that I feel like x402 is going to be the next major catalyst to help the next wave of crypto adoption, right? Because it's kind of like this built-in way to do account abstraction in a way. I wonder what you think needs to happen for developers. What do they need to build, or what do they need to focus on to make that happen? What kind of agents do you think are going to help drive that, or what kind of things are missing from the industry now? I'd always like to ask the question just to get an idea of for hackers that are building on the protocol.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think what's happening is that now what you can do is you can build all these microservices, monetize them, and build an empire around them. And so we can think of all these online tools that people use today. I don't know, if I have a logo and I want to remove the background of the PNG image for the logo, I have to go to some website and probably log in with my Google account, and then I can access it. This would be a great API endpoint for x402. Again, kind of the power here are the Lego blocks and how these tools can fit together to solve problems. And so what I would do is, if I were an entrepreneur, is I would go and I'd kind of search what are the top microservices that people are leveraging right now to solve tasks related to computing, create API endpoints for those and monetize them. So that's on the supply side. On the demand side, I think there's a lot to be done around implementing more complex agent workflows that leverage these tools using existing agent frameworks like Agents SDK, LangChain, or V0, as well as others. So we can use kind of these agent frameworks to really create clear prompt patterns around tool calling, to get more reliability around the problems that we want to solve. If we aren't kind of as advanced at coding, it's really easy to use vibe coding tools like Repl and bring in embedded wallets and do x402 tool calling seamlessly. You might follow Ash, who's kind of a Coinbase DevRel leading a lot of the x402 demos. He built a really cool demo that I think is worth sharing around ads. And so basically what this demo does, it says, okay, I want to give the user a targeted ad around coffee. And so let's see where is the user in San Francisco? What's the weather in San Francisco? It's rainy, so it calls a weather API endpoint, and then it uses that context to create an image of coffee with rain in the background. And so it's just another kind of cool example that was actually vibe coded by Ash. And so it's very easy to vibe code these examples and move very quickly when it comes to these agentic applications.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. I think that's the whole vibe coding thing is quite interesting, because we're at this point now where people can have an idea, and especially now with things like x402, which simplify crypto to this level that's way easier for Web 2 devs to understand. Is really cool, and that's interesting. I have one more question for you, actually from the audience. What do you think that x402, was it expected that it got so much adoption? Because it kind of blew up, the last I would say a month or so. It's really gotten a lot of traction, and I know that that's why, because the tech is awesome. But what was your guys' thought there? Did you expect it?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw the vision really early on. If you look at one of my pinned tweets, it was from a year ago, and it was that in order for agents to be fully autonomous, they need to use crypto rails and have wallets to access tools. And so we've been thinking about kind of this architecture for a long time and enabling truly autonomous agents where the agent's not necessarily a tool for a human, but could exist as its own economic actor with a wallet where maybe it's earning capital and it's using that to buy more advanced inference. So we've kind of seen this vision for a long time. We've been building around it. And for us, it was clear. It was clear back in February, March, when we launched the x402 white paper. And we've been builders kind of in the AI space and at that intersection between AI and crypto. And everyone we talked to thought it was awesome. We've brought on a lot of kind of AI native companies into the Web3 world. The massive surge in the last 2 weeks kind of caught us by surprise, but I think it just was a factor of the rest of the world seeing what we saw around the potential of lighting up these payments at the 402 level. And what we're also doing is we're building this payment system that's chain agnostic, and so an API endpoint can signal, I want USDC on Base or Solana, and then the wallet provider, or maybe they want to accept Visa Intelligent Commerce, right? The protocol is not explicitly limited to crypto, and so we think this is a great way to unify the industry around a common standard, really unify the entire internet around a common standard to drive agentic commerce and to drive web native payments as a protocol instead of as a service.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. You're a great speaker and you're very knowledgeable about this stuff. So thanks so much for coming on, and excited to see you in the coming weeks at other conferences and stuff. So I'll see you around.
Definitely. Yeah, and if anyone's in San Francisco, we're hosting a meetup with Cloudflare on November 4th. We're also hosting a hackathon at Y Combinator on November 15th. And we'll be in Buenos Aires at DevConnect doing various events. And so if you're on the crypto circuit or you're here in the Bay Area, would love to meet you in person and help enable.
Awesome. See you, Kevin. All right, so that was amazing. So very excited for having Kevin here, and that was a great talk. Thank you so much. Great demo.